Alright, so now we're gonna learn about monomials multiply. That's what this, it's a time sign. Monomials times polynomials. Recall the product rule. X to the a power times x to the b power. When you're multiplying two things with the same base, these both have a base of x. You can add the exponents. So that's x to the a plus b power. Alright, so an example, remember, would be like x to the third power plus, or not plus, sorry, um, times x to the fifth, let's say. That would become x to the 3 plus 5, which is the eighth power. Okay, so this is the distributive property, but with variables. So for this first guy, it's h times h and h times 4. So that's going to become h times h. They both have a power of 1, so you're going to add those together to get a power of 2, h squared, plus 4 times h is 4h. All right, same kind of thing with number 2 here. Distribute that k value. I like to draw the arrows to help me remember. So that's going to become k times k is k squared, minus k times 9 is 9k. Alright, and just this is a monomial times a polynomial because of the monomial is the h and the k, in this case, a single term multiplied by another thing that's got more than one term. So these are binomials. Remember, they have two, so it's binomial. Okay, this next one's a little different. I mean, it's got a 9 in front of there as well. So you multiply with the a and you add the exponents, but with the 9 you multiply by the coefficient in front of the a. So the coefficient in front of this a is a 1. We don't write it in, so 9 times 1 is 9. And then the a times a is a squared. And then 9 times 9a times 1 is 9a. Okay. Same kind of thing with number 4 here. 6p times p. That's going to be 6 times the 1 is 6. And then p times p is p to the second power. Minus 6p times 8. Well, 6 times 8 is 48. And then there's no p here to add to, so it's just p to the first. Okay, this next one, 3 times negative 2. That's, so now there's not a 1 in front of the variable. It's an actual number that we see, which in this case is negative 2. So 3 times negative 2, draw my little arrow in, is negative 6, right? And then c times c, there's two of them, so c squared. And then distribute the 3c to the second term. We're subtracting, and we're multiplying by a positive, so that's not going to change the sign, so that's just minus still. 3c times 5 is 15c. Alright, now we're stepping up the game a little bit here. We're multiplying by negative 4g squared. So first distribute that to the 2g. So negative 4 times 2, that's going to give us negative 8. And now we have g squared times another g to the first, so a total of 3g's. So g to the third power, or g cubed. Now remember, be careful when you're multiplying by a negative. I've said this before, so you're multiplying by a negative, that's going to change this sign. It's going to make it a negative value, but instead of writing plus a negative, we're just going to change it to a minus sign. If it was a minus sign and we're multiplying by a negative, we'd change it to a plus sign. So this is going to become minus, and then 4 times 7 is 28. And then there's no variable to multiply with, so that's just going to stay as a g squared. Pay attention to how this negative sign affected the signs here. Let's change up the color here. Let's go green. All right, now we're distributing an x to the first power. So that means all the x's are going to increase by 1 power. The coefficient is 1, so none of the numbers are going to change. So that's just going to be x cubed minus x squared plus 3x. And that's it for that one. Alright, now this next one is more similar to what we were doing with those other ones because it's got a 5 in the front. So 5 times 3, that's 15. M squared times m squared, well that's 2 plus 2 is going to be m to the 4th power. Alright, now this is a negative 1 in front of there, so 5 times negative 1, that's going to be negative 5 or minus 5. And that's m to the first, so m squared times m to the first, that's m cubed. And then this last one is a negative 7 times the 5, that's negative 35 is 5 times 7. And then m squared, and there's no m there, so it's just going to stay as an m squared, like so. Okay. Keep going with these. Negative 3n, distribute that. Oop, drawing my arrows in. Negative 3 times a 1 is going to be negative 3 still. N to the first power times n to the second power, that's going to be n to the third power. This next one is a negative times a negative, so that's going to become, remember what I said before, that's going to change the sign. So that's going to become a plus. And then 3 times 2 is 6. And n to the first times n to the first, we have 2 n's now, so that's n to the second. Again, multiplying by negative, so that sign's going to change. So that's going to become a minus. And 3 times 8 is 24. N times no n is just going to be n. Alright, here's another one. This one's very similar to that last one. Distributing again. So it's going to become negative 12 x to the third. Negative times a negative, that's going to become plus or positive. And that's going to be 2 times 12 is 24. X times x is x to the second power. And then negative 2 times positive 18, that's going to become a negative now, a minus. And 2 times 18 is 36. And x times no x is x. Alright, so now we are changing up a little bit now. We're distributing something that's got more than one variable. So 3xy. So we're going to be adding one exponent to both the x and y terms here. So again, distributing to all 3 spots. So the first one's going to be 3x cubed because we had 1 there and 2 here. So that's a total of 3. And then just y. 1y. Alright, plus 3 times the 1 that's in front here is 3. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. Alright, and this last one, 3 times 1 is 3. X times no x here is just going to be x. And then y to the first times y to the second. That all adds up to y to the third. There you go. Alright, this next one, same kind of thing, except we're multiplying by 5, and we're going to be adding 2 to the r's and 2 to the s's when we get to them. So this first one, 5 times negative 2, that's negative 10. R to the second times R to the second, that's a total of 4 R's, so R to the fourth. S squared times, there's no S's there, so S squared. 5 times 3, 15. R squared, R, that's going to make R cubed, or to the third power. And S squared times S, that's going to be S to the third power. Let me draw a little bit of 3 there. And then 5 times minus 4s, that's going to be a minus 20. R squared, no r's there, so it's just going to be R squared. And a total of 4 s's, because there's 2 and 2. Okay. Do a color change here. Alright, same kind of thing as the last one, distributing 3 and A and B, so that's going to be 3 times 4 is 12. We're going to have a total of 3 A's, 1 B. Alright, and minus 3 times 7 is 21. A, and because there's no A there, so the A is just by itself, and then B times B cubed is B to the fourth. Alright, this next one, this has got a lot of stuff going on here. Again, we're distributing. Negative 4 times 9, that's negative 36. C to the third, C to the second, that's a, remember we're adding those, that's C to the fifth. D to the second, D to the second, makes D to the fourth. Now we're multiplying by a negative, so be careful here, because that's a minus sign. Now it should become a plus sign. Negatives times negatives become positives. And 4 times 4 is 16. C cubed times C to the first is C to the fourth. D squared D to the fifth is D to the seventh. Alright, one last one from this section. So multiply those coefficients. 10 and negative 2 makes negative 20. And then we've got m to the fifth and n to the fourth. Plus 10 times 3 is 30. M to the fourth stays the way it is. And that's going to be n to the second. Alright, so now we're moving it to distributing. Then we're going to simplify the remaining expression. The final answer must be in standard form. Remember standard form we talked about last time. That's highest power first, then you go down from there. So first, distribute like we were doing. Remember we're distributing negative, so be careful there. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And then x times x is x squared. Negative times negative is going to be a positive. And that's going to be 2 times 4 is 8. X, just 1x. Now we still have this plus 7x, so I'm going to write it in. Plus 7x. And we can combine those two guys because they're like terms. So the final step is going to be negative 6x squared plus 8 plus 7 is 15. And they both have the x there. There we go. Alright, number 17. We're going to distribute the 5w here, and we're going to distribute the 2w over here at the same time. So we're going to have negative 35 w to the second plus, that's going to make 15 w. Alright, so that's the first guy. Now we're going to distribute this 2w here. So I see that it's going to be a 2 times a negative 2. That's going to be negative 4. So instead of just writing plus a negative 4, I'm going to write minus 4. W to the 1 power plus the second power is the third power. 2 times 19, that makes 38. They both have 1 W, so that'll be W to the second. And this last one is 2 times 2W, which is going to be plus 4W. All right, now we combine like terms. Now, since we have to put it in standard form, let's go with the highest powers first. So I see there's this negative 4W cubed, so I'm going to start off with that one. And there's no other cubes, W cubed, so I'm just going to write negative 4W to the third. That one's done. Now the W squareds, there's two of those. So a negative 35 and a positive 38. When you add those, most of them cancel because negative 35 cancels most of the 38s, but you're left with 3 positives left over. You can always utilize a calculator to help you with these. But if you're comfortable doing them mentally, then that's good too. Cancel those out now. 15W and 4W makes then 19W. And after we get those out of the way, we're done. Color change, let's go black here. All right, so distribute a W, or I mean a Y. Here you gotta be careful because it's a minus Y, so we're distributing a negative Y. Only to the things in the parentheses. This negative 9Y is just all by itself. So Y times Y, that makes Y squared. Y times 4 is 4Y. Negative Y times Y is negative Y squared. Because it's a negative times a positive, that makes a negative, so a minus there. Now a negative Y times a negative 3. Remember, that's gonna change the sign here, so it's gonna become a plus, and then 3Y. Now don't forget, that minus 9Y is still around. Don't forget about it. Okay. So lots of Y's and Y squareds. First, notice we've got this Y squared and this negative Y squared. That's a positive 1 and a negative 1. When you add those, they actually cancel out. So there's nothing there. We don't even write it in. And then we look at the Y's. So they're all same term. 4 plus 3 minus 9. That all makes, that's 7. Minus 9 is negative 2. Negative 2y. Okay. All right, number 19, distribute. Be careful, and again, on here, on the second part here, we're distributing a negative, so we're going to have to be careful with that. 6x times 2x is 12, because 6 times 2 is 12, and x to the second. And then minus, it's a positive that we're multiplying, so that stays the same. 6 times 3 is 18, and x, 1 to the first power. All right, be careful, distribute a negative. Maybe circle it with the negative sign. So negative 5 times 2 is negative 10 minus 10. And then it keeps its x squared. Negative times a positive here is going to be a negative. 5 times 9 is 45. And then x from that x there. Negative times a negative makes a positive, so plus 5 times 3 is 15. All right, like terms, x squared, x squared. So 12x squared, negative 10x squared. That makes a positive 2x when you combine those. You could either do 12 plus negative 10 or 12 minus 10. Either way would work. Negative 18x and negative 45x. Either add them both as negatives or take negative 18 minus 45. Either way, you should get negative, what would that be, 63x. Cancel those, and the 15 is all by himself, nobody to combine with, so plus 15. Again, notice how I'm going highest power to lowest power for um, standard form. We'll raise this up a little bit. Okay, again, distribute. So it's negative 6m cubed. Multiply by negative, so it's negative 10m minus 12. So that's next one's going to be positive 6. 3 times 2 is 6. The m situation is going to become m to the third. 3 times 3 on this next is going to be 9. M times m is n to the second. 3m times 1 then is just 3m. Combine like terms. Start off with the highest powers. Notice that it's a negative 6m cubed and a positive 6m cubed. Those are going to cancel out. They're going to make 0. So don't have to write anything in there for that. Next is this squared term, 9m squared. And there's nothing to combine it with, so that's all that we have. Next we have negative 10 and positive 3. Combine those and you get negative 7, or minus 7m. And then you're just left with this negative 12, so minus 12. Okay. 21, same kind of process, except we have a triple thing going on here, so we're distributing with 3 different things here. Just same stuff, just a little bit more distributing. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. Y, they both have y's, so y to the second. Negative 3y times negative 2 is going to be positive plus 6y. This next one should be pretty easy. We're just multiplying by 3, so that'll be 3y squared plus 6y plus 3. And then we're going to distribute a negative 3y, so negative times a negative is positive. And there's 2 y's there, so y to the second. Negative times a positive is negative 9y. Alright, so now let's see what we can combine. I see 3 terms that have y squared, so negative 21, 3, and 15. Let's see, well 15 and 3 make 18. 18 and negative 21, add them together, you'll get negative 3y squared. Alright, now this y terms, 6y and 6y makes 12y. 12y plus negative 9y is positive 3y. And then the last term is this 3, and there's nothing to combine it with, so it's just plus 3. Alright, to save on a little bit of time, we're going to skip 22 there. So first off, it's distributing this negative 2x. So distribute it to all 3 of these. And now here, we got a set of parentheses, and there's no number in front. So just like we know in front of an x there's a 1 right here. It's a negative 1. So you gotta be careful with that. You're gonna distribute a negative 1 there. Okay. So negative 2 times 2x times 3, x to the third is negative 2x to the fourth. Negative times negative is a positive. 12x to the third. Negative times a positive is negative 12x. That 4x cubed, nothing's happening to it. All right, now we're multiplying by a negative 1. So negative 1 times 5x to the fourth is just negative, or minus 5x to the fourth. Same kind of thing with this negative 1 and this positive 10x. That's just going to become minus 10x. Combine like terms. The x to the fourths, they're both negative, so they're going to make a bigger negative when you add them. Negative 7x to the fourth. 12x cubed. 4x cubed makes 16x cubed. Negative 12x and negative 10x make a negative 22x, so minus 22x. There we go. All right. Now this one's pretty crazy. So notice that there's brackets and there's parentheses. So actually make sure you distribute this negative 5 in this parentheses first. That'll be our first step. Distribute this negative 5. And that's all we'll do for now. So that 4b stays on the outside. We still have the 2a squared for now. Minus, now 15, 5 times 3 is 15. AB. Negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. And then that's going to be b squared. Notice that the parentheses are gone, but the bracket is still going to have to be there, the outside bracket. And then plus 29ab squared. Okay, next step, distribute the 4b. So distribute to 3 different things. So 4b times 2a squared is going to be 8a squared b. Right, because they're different letters, they can't be added together. 4 times negative 15, well that makes negative 60. And then the a is left alone. We add the b's to make b squared. 4 times 10 makes 40. And there's going to be a total of 3 b's there. Now the square brackets are gone because we distributed inside them. And that plus 29ab squared is still out there. Okay, and one final step is combine like terms. Remember, alphabetical order comes first, so the a squared it's got the most a's in it, and there's nothing to add it with, it looks like, so that just is 8a squared b. All right, next we've got these a b squared terms we can combine, negative 60 and positive 29. When you add those together, you'll get negative 31 ab squared. And then we're just left with 40b cubed, positive, so plus. And there we go. All right. This one, distribute the y. Can't do anything with that other stuff for now. So that's 12xy minus 8 x squared, but we can add the y powers. So y1 makes y second power. And then the rest of it is, we're just going to copy down. All right, combine like terms. So x squared is going to be the most x's, so these two, combine them first. That'll make negative 8 plus 13, that's positive 5. Like so. Then 12xy can't combine with anything. and -6 cannot be combined with anything. All right. Now this last thing that we'll do is finding the area of a shaded region. So, well, we can find the area of a rectangle. Remember, area of a rectangle is length times width. And then, but we want just the shaded region, so this white region we don't want. So we're going to find the area of the big shaded, find the area of the small white, and subtract them, and subtract the big area minus the small area. So we're going to have, area of big minus, let's see if I can fit this in here, area of small. I think it's going to work. There we go. So the area of the big minus the area of the small. All right, so area big is length times width. So we can do 6x times 8x minus 1. We're going to need to use parentheses. 6x times, with parentheses, 8x minus 1. Okay, distribute that 6x to both of these. That's going to make 48x squared minus 6x. So there's our big area. Okay, how about we'll do a like red for the small area. So we're going to need to multiply these two guys for the small area. 2x, and then 5x plus 3. Distribute that 2x, so that's going to make 10x squared plus 6x. All right, now for this big area minus the small area. Notice how I put them in parentheses. All right, let's combine them. Let's use blue. So big area, that's going to be 48x squared minus 6x minus the small area, 10x squared plus 6x. And remember from last lesson, we did some subtracting of polynomials. You can change this to add the opposite, and you're going to change the sign of everything in here. Okay, so to rewrite this now, we can write 48x squared minus 6x. Nothing happens to the first one, but then that's going to become plus a negative 10x, or you can just write it as minus 10x squared. And then this is going to become a minus as well, instead of a plus, so minus 6x. Or you could write plus negative 10x squared and plus negative 6x. That would also work. Combine like terms here, that's going to make positive 38x squared. And then we've got negative plus a negative. Those are not going to cancel out because they're both negatives. Negative 12x. Sometimes people think that when they see two negatives, they'll cancel, but they just make a greater negative. And that's that. All right. I know this one's got a lot of steps to it. Make sure you got those down correctly. There's going to be one problem like that on the assignment. But homework 2 is the next thing you should work on now.